melanin. Oh yeah, I got melanin. You mad? We got melanin. Melanin, melanin. I got melanin. Oh yeah, I got melanin. You mad? We got melanin. Melanin, melanin.
Hey guys, welcome back to our channel, Two Melanin Mommies. This is our Black Girl Magic episode, but before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe. Just hit that button right down there.
Right now.
So this weekend we went and saw the movie Harriet, and we went with the AKA Sorority Incorporated Omega Delta Omega Chapter Supreme Foundation. They did it baller style and rented out the theater, so we'll post some pictures, you know, for you guys to see that too. And this the movie started Cynthia Erivo, if I'm saying that right. She's a Tony Award winning black actress, and she also starred in the movie Bad Times at the El Royale. So check that out if you guys haven't checked that one out too. It's on cable right now. And then it also had our girl Vanessa Bell Calloway in it, and Janelle Monáe, looking just as beautiful as ever.
Really beautiful.
And so, anyway, we wanted to kind of recap on the movie. I saw that it was getting some controversy, some things like that, and backlash, and some stuff about it that we shouldn't be showing.
Backlash?
Yeah. They said that a part in the movie that it still showed like black people giving the slave master sympathy. So it was a part in the movie, like, so if you haven't watched it, this is kind of like a little spoiler, where, you know, the son to overtake, they grew up with each other, but of course she's a slave and he's the slave master's son. And it comes to a part in the movie where she has an opportunity to kill him. And so they take that as being like, you know, still showing us having sympathy basically for the slave master. But I think it also still shows us being who we really are, like black people being compassionate, you know, regardless of the stereotypes and the things that they put out there about us, that we really do accept and kind of, you know, forgive, maybe even when the other person doesn't deserve it.
It showed her spirituality.
Yeah.
It was deeper than that, you know, just like she rather him lived with the guilt of being a slave owner, master, being abusive, going to poor, losing all your slaves, not having control of everything. So people didn't look at the big spectrum of what that meant. I don't think it was sympathy.
Right. And then it is sometimes with moments, I feel like, when people go low, you should go high. You know what I mean? I said sometimes, you know, it's hard to do, but I feel like anger is a quick and easy emotion, so it does still show the strength and resilience of black people. And I feel like that's what this movie showed, especially to black women. So that's why we're saying like Black Girl Magic, but the resilience of black people overall. Like when you have a million odds against you and you still make it.
Yes.
We're still here, and we need to still have, I feel like, these movies to even show our kids, like kids, you know, that hasn't even made it here, that's black and won't know about slavery.
Know your black history.
Yeah, know your black history. And I'm a self-proclaimed history buff, so I always feel like, you know, these are things that we still, if we don't acknowledge them, history repeats itself. And like I said, not to say that even slavery would repeat itself, but some of the things that we go through today, that if they could make it, if those people were slaves, could be as resilient as they were and still make it, even then after slavery, Jim Crow, things like that, they still have resilience. It even showed still in that time how we still found love, how she still had a husband, you know, it was, and I mean, it didn't even work out for her and her first husband, but it still shows the
just her being a woman.
Right.
It shows her story as a woman, not just showing one side, but for us to get to know who she was. And now even thinking about it, they didn't even tell us, was she born on The slave?
Well, her plantation, yeah, because that's how all her brothers and sisters were there. So the plantation she was on, she had lived there all her life.
Okay.
With those people. Remember, she grew up with the slave master's son.
I remember that, but
it kind of hints to the slave master's son even loving her. I wouldn't even say loving, but some type of weird, you know, I guess
think it's like humanity. Like, I like this person, I love this person, but you're so focused on color and what's being taught to you,
and what the normal society
it contradicts
is.
your feelings for a person and makes you treat them bad. So I think that's really where that part came from.
Right, and it just still it still showed the even back then that feelings and that people are still people, even though, like, yeah, she was his slave basically, but as a kid, I'm sure he didn't feel like he was conflicted.
Yes,
because he still grew up with this person, but
he owned her,
and he really owned her.
Yes.
And then when he got older and the dad died, he really had to come into that part, even though I really felt like it wasn't in him.
No,
it really wasn't in him.
It helped pay the bills. It became a part about surviving, it seemed like to me, for some of those slave owners during that time.
And a prestige. As one of the slave owners, she said when he was telling, like, we need to sell some, she was worried about the image. So even then, back then, to have a lot of slaves was something like a status thing back then to, you know, white people. So I mean, just even a lot of things that you already know about slavery in the history of black people and white people, but a lot of things still kind of is shocking. It's still, even you've seen all these movies. We've seen The Roots, we've seen, you know, and I understand some people think that it is redundant, but when you sit down and really look at it, it's still things to learn. It's still things to know. It's still things to think about, like these people, like how they even, the escaping part of it.
Or to me, how it showed more of us, not so much. I actually thought it would be a little bit more, what's the word I should use right now? I thought more action, more violence, but it didn't show the violent side. It showed it was there and the violence that can appear, but it was more like a biography about somebody's life and how they helped other people, how she was a spiritual woman, how she did believe in God, but it did not touch on the Bible. It did show, though, how the slave masters would try and use the Bible against you for your own beliefs and for the better good of themselves.
Right, not so much as them, but, and a lot of the slaves they took to it. Yes. But it also showed where a lot of them thought it was BS too. A lot of them that they knew. And then even it's still like the surprising about the escaping.
Yes.
Like how I mean, a lot of them would escape. They didn't even have shoes.
Yes.
I mean, they're running through these forests, but when it's
100 miles.
Right.
It took her 100 miles
on foot
to get free.
On foot, and some of them even further. Yes. I mean, even some of the stories, like, you know, that I've read, like, of them mailing themselves, putting themselves in these crates, and it's like the mail system is not like it is today. There was no planes, there was no, you know, a lot of times you're on a boat and traveling all these miles in a crate to freedom. And then Harriet's story actually is more on the tail end of slavery, because the war comes, the Civil War comes, that is the potential, the beginning of the end of slavery. But, you know, it still shows their will to escape by this time.
And it showed another sympathetic side of some of the white people in the South, because she did jump on a wagon. And the man knew she was in there, but he still let her travel all that way, didn't say nothing to her, acted like he didn't even know she was there, and helped her basically get to freedom.
But I feel like that's still, like, with the controversy, how people are saying, like, oh, it still showed us being compassionate, but a lot of that stuff still wouldn't have been able to get done either if it wasn't for some of the white people that felt that it wasn't right.
Exactly.
So, you know, like, we can't like, we don't want to be lumped into every bad stereotype about black people. You know, we have to also think about that with white people. And it did show, I felt like it couldn't have been a true story to show that every white person felt that slavery was a good thing. That it did still show some guilt. It showed some compassion of them, and like I said, they wouldn't have been able to do a lot of the things without some of those white people that went against what was the society.
Or even what Frederick Douglass did, how he put fear into some of those families and having that many slaves even on their property. So it goes both ways. Everybody just has their own story to tell. Like, for instance, even my son, in the beginning, he didn't want to go see it. He's 13. And after seeing the movie, he said he enjoyed it. He thought it was really good. But to me, he doesn't know much black history. So it puts me in a position now where I am going to have to be the person to introduce him to all these things, especially since they do not teach it in the schools anymore.
And that's what I've done with my daughter. Like, we read so many books and Martin Luther King, and, you know, she had, at one point being young, became infatuated with, you know, a lot of the black history from the books. Even my mom, you know, with her being an AKA and being from Louisiana, growing up kind of in that area where it was still segregation, things like that. You know, so she still has this certain
perception from being from the South.
Right. So, you know, and she wanted to make sure that my daughter was well educated on some of the things of, you know, black people struggle and her struggle, her struggle as well. You know, so, but I mean, and it's still but the bigger picture to me here was the whole, to me, the black woman story. Like, even still showing that, you know, that still the resilience of black women and how we can get things done.
Yes.
That we can get things done.
We wish we could get into more, but everybody hasn't seen the movie that might watch this, where you could see why she's saying get things done. Right. Because it was a collaborative group of people who came together to actually help free the slaves. We just actually get to see Harriet Tubman, a black woman, in her story. And something that was also really interesting to me in that movie was him taking notes of every slave that came to Philadelphia to become free, and even discuss how they were treated by their master or the slave owner. And it makes me wonder where we even probably going to have to do more research on where is that book.
Right.
Because that is a census.
Right. But they're out there. There are some things out there, like Henry Louis Gates. He has he discovered a manuscript from a slave, and he rewrote it. And I bought the book, and it's called A Bondswoman's Narrative by Henry Louis Gates. And he is a well-renowned black black historian, for, you know, those that don't know about him, but you may want to get that book too, Bondswoman's Narrative, and it is supposed to be a first-hand account of a slave woman. And, you know, even though it's a lot of broken, you know, because, you know, you weren't supposed to be able to read, let alone, you know, be writing things, you know. So, and to write it was like a journal that she was keeping.
Like a little diary.
Right. And he redid it. But anyway, we don't want to talk about too much of the movie, so you guys don't feel like you need to go and see it for the ones that haven't saw it. But, you know, I give it 2 thumbs up. 2 thumbs up. Definitely. It is worth seeing. It is worth putting your money into. If you have kids, it's worth them going to see, because, like I said, this story is not going to be told. No. Not the way that it was told in this movie.
Take your families, take the kids. It's a great experience, something to see. I would say history-wise, it was pretty good. I wish it could have been longer and a little bit more detailed. I still just feel like some things were missing in the movie that I personally would have loved to have found out more about her. Because they said in the end, when she died, she said these words to her grandkids.
Yeah.
So we didn't get to find out life after freeing the slaves, which would be a whole nother great story to hear.
Right. Because it sounds like she did. She lived a good, normal life after all these amazing things that she did. She remarried and, you know, had kids and had a family. So But still a great watch. And if you want to go deeper, you probably need to get some books. Read some books, and we can all use a little bit more enlightenment on ourselves. But anyway, it's worth it.
And I know I've been sipping right now. We're going into the holidays, so I'm drinking one of my favorite things around Thanksgiving and Christmas. We call it the Holiday Delight. Tonight we're actually having it with the Jack Daniels and some eggnog. Really delicious, but I just wanted to let you guys know what we were sipping on. We wanted to update you because I know we took a little time off since the last video. We're super excited about becoming 2 melon mommies and just even see where our channel goes. And Olympica, our melon mommy, she really had this on her mind and she wanted to talk about it and us discuss those things. So you have anything else you want to end it off on?
No, I think that's it. Again, like and
Hey guys, I had to do this video voiceover since our video suddenly shut off. But once again, thank you for watching. Please subscribe and like this video. And these are just some pics of our kids from that night when we went to see the Harriet movie. Bye.